Hey guys, thanks for finding me. I'm just offering a little bit of an intro before we get into the main body of this recording, which I basically just went on a bit of a stream. There were some components that I sort of missed that I want to add to it. There'll be this bit of an intro here, and I'll do a bit of a end section at the end of the second part. I sort of mentioned that I might break it into two components, and I did do that. And in the first main component, I mentioned a section related to a talk that Bruce Lipton gave with Greg Braden, where he talked about, now that I've reviewed it, he actually talked about the download phase in that. So I must have got it from there, or I had the concept and it's the same sort of thing. And he talks about it at the start of birth, okay? Like the first 7 years when we wake up, where we're information sponges to be able to calibrate and operate in the reality. My perception of the download phase is at some later stage where you've gone through life, as I mentioned, relative to the Arcturian Part 2 show that I did for Andrew, which was related to undercover incarnators, where after we've lived many years of our lives and had a lot of experience, there might be some sort of scenario that triggers us to go from a dormant stage to an active stage, and I use me as a metaphor for that in many respects, and that's why I've been so inclusive of my experience to help you use me as a instrument to help in your discernment. So unlike what Bruce Lipton says, I see that there's a second potential that we all go through in an awakening, where we metaphorically go through what Yoda says in Empire Strikes Back: we must unlearn what we have learned. And so, yeah, what I'm sort of introducing is a mechanics of awakening that many of us may have gone through, but when I offer it in the way I do, my intent for you is to actually focus it like a real acetylene torch and really empower yourself by seeing that pattern. So I hope with this and this preface that you can see some things that maybe you did instinctively but you didn't really recognize, or you have done but they haven't been really empowered, and now that you understand this, that you really strengthen them and really value all the research and everything that you've done, or actually inspire you to really get fully engaged with the research at a level that you probably haven't done. So a lot of my creations over the many years, whether it was my series or the videos or for Andrew, has been for those of you that really are dedicated to accessing that potential in you. So I really hope this helps. Hope this focuses you. I hope it benefits you wherever you're doing, and you get a lot from this. I hope that the Bruce Lipton clip is really profound for you as well, because it's really amazing. He's been a great ally and teacher to me over the many years, so I highly encourage exploration in his way. So thank you again for finding me, and I hope you get a lot from this, and keep searching, guys. Hang in there. Cheers.
There'll be one other factor besides the fact that, well, there's two factors for the evolution. I'll just say it very quickly. Two factors. Number one, we are not victims of our health. 90-some% of ill health on this planet is now found to due totally to stress. It is not due to the biological malfunctioning. That, in fact, less than 5% of the population can even legitimately claim that their genetics are interfering with their life. So that means 95% of the people have a perfectly adequate genetic system, okay? We've been programmed to be victims, and the fact is, no, we are the ones that change the environment or perception of the environment. And since the environment that controls the cells, it doesn't make a difference if the cell's in a plastic dish or a skin-covered dish. It still responds to the environment. Our mind creates the chemistry, which is the foundation of the culture medium called blood. Your thoughts release different chemicals into the blood, and just as I change the culture medium in one dish to another dish, I change the fate of the cells. As you change your mind and change your perception, you change your own biology and genetics, which means you're all powerful, but you don't believe it because there's nobody to support it. This becomes really critical, and the other part is this: we've all been programmed. And this is the hardship that we face. And there's a movie called The Matrix. You may have seen people look for it in the science fiction part of the video store. It's actually a documentary. And the reason is simply this: we have been given the choice of take the blue pill and go back into the program, or take the red pill and get out of the program. They never really said what would happen if you got out of the program. And all of us have been programmed. Last trimester of pregnancy, first 7 years, is download. And the reason for the download is this: you cannot be conscious if you don't have data. In other words, I buy you a new iPod, you take it out of the box, I say push play, plays the create the playlist, created, conscious, let's say. I say push play on the new iPod, and nothing happens. So, well, why not? And the answer is you didn't put any programs to play from. First 7 years, nature designed the download. The download is a brain state of theta as a predominant brain state, which is hypnosis. So that children observe everyone around them and download the behavior without conscious filtering or conscious interpretation. It's just a recording. What their fathers, their mothers, their family, culture is doing is a download. And these then become the foundation of the database. Now, the issue is the conscious mind is us, our spiritual, our source, who we are. We are in the conscious mind. There's an entity in there. That's us, okay? And the conscious mind is the creative mind. The conscious mind has wishes, desires, and aspirations. The subconscious mind is the habitual mind. It just plays the programs that we got. Well, the issue is, why don't our lives match our wishes and our desires? And science is answering that simply by the fact that it recognizes that we only operate 5% of the time from our conscious minds. That means 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious programs, which means the behaviors that you represent 95% of the time are actually not even yours. Fundamentally, they were downloaded from other people. And as a result, we're not living the lives that we want to live. And we don't see it, and that's where the whole monkey wrench goes in the system. As I say in my lectures very quickly, I hope give me a minute here, I'm trying to get to the end of this. I say, go back to a time in your life. I know you had a friend, you were very close to your friend, you knew your friend's behavior very, very well, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And at one point you see your friend has some of the same behavior as their parent. So you volunteer something like, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then you back away from Bill, who goes totally ballistic and says, how can you compare me to my dad? And most people are totally familiar with this. And I say, but this is a profound story. Everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. And there's a reason, scientifically. The conscious mind is thinking 95% of the time. And when it's thinking, by definition, it's not being mindful or paying attention. And as a result, the default shifts into the subconscious behavior. So now you're playing behavior that you don't see and comes from other people and sabotages ourselves, okay? So the programming is really where the problems come from. And the cultural programming is passed down the first 7 years unconsciously from generation to generation to generation, which presets your cancer. Children who are adopted into a family that has a lineage of cancer, the adopted child will get the same family cancer as much as any sibling would, but they came from totally different genetics. It's not the genes that did this, okay? Go back very quickly, and I'll just close it out because there's some interesting part about the story of the Matrix. It says, take the red pill and get out of the programming. And I would say, well, what would happen if you didn't go in, if you stopped operating from your programming? If you stayed mindful right now and stopped operating from the programming, I'll tell you what happened because you've experienced it already in your life. If you ever fell in love, head over heels in love with somebody, this was the one time in your life where you don't default to the subconscious program. It's the beginning part of love. It's called the honeymoon. 3 things are very important about it. Number 1, you're extremely healthy. And the reason is love causes brain secretions in the culture medium that give health to the cells. People glow. They have tremendous energy when they fall in love. I always joke that they make love for days without stopping for food or sleep. They got so much energy. And I also come to this most important conclusion. When you ask people who are in that state of what I call the honeymoon effect about life on this planet, to them at that moment it's heaven on earth. It's heaven on earth. And the fact was, well, that was not an accident or a coincidence. They created it from what? Conscious mind, wishes, desires, and aspirations. Then there's a tendency to lose it and falls apart. And the reason is, well, why did it fall apart? And the answer is, when life gets busy, you start to think. And the moment you start thinking, you default to the programs that you got from your parents and your community. Well, those behaviors were never part of the honeymoon. So when they're introduced, usually it's a shock to the other person to see that behavior show up. And this is where that, I love the phrase, "who are you?" comes out to their partner. And the fact is, then you have to go back to Bill's story. Bill didn't see he was playing the behavior, so he has no idea he has that behavior. So when a couple start to argue over the behavior that shows up and one doesn't even know they played the behavior, that's where the thing starts falling apart and compromises start coming in. Well, I accept that crummy behavior because we had this great honeymoon part, that was really good. But then another compromise and another compromise, and every time you compromise, the honeymoon disappears, quick, piece by piece by piece, until you say, no more compromises, relationship over. And then you stand there thinking, how did something so wonderful turn into this? And the answer was, it was wonderful when you operated from your creative, conscious mind and were mindful. And you lost it when the programs kicked in. So the world we're facing today is, in a conclusion, cosmic joke, if I would really look at it the way I love to see it, is that we've been programmed to believe that we die and then we go to heaven. My perception is a little different. I think we're born into heaven. And this is where we come to create. This is where we come to have experiences. When we die, we carry those with us, but not the opportunity to make more creations, because this is a virtual reality suit that, as I was saying earlier, when I wasn't spiritual, I had nothing to do with spirituality. I was doing genetics and molecules, all these things, and then I saw the nature of the spirituality, and it was a moment of my whole life changed. And the moment was when I asked myself, when I owned all of a sudden that I have a spiritual part to me and a physical part, and I asked myself, why have both? And the cells answered the question. With a question, I asked, why have both a spirit and a body? And the cells said this to me, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? And all of a sudden I realized that's a short way of saying all the experiences, the emotions, what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears, what you taste with what you feel and touch and smell, all of that is derived from this cellular machine that converts the sensations of our world into vibration, and the brain sends the vibration back to source. And I realized, biggest mistake in my whole life, because as males, what was the programming? Males were programmed not to be sensitive. Because if we were sensitive, then we were sissies. So we got to the point of how insensitive we can be. Well, hit me and see if I cry. That was the test. I'm so insensitive, you can hit me. And then, of course, we grew up in a world with all these women with all their sensitivity, because that's allowed. And they look at us going, how come they're so damn insensitive? And it's the programming. And the fact is, I wasted a lot of my life realizing that our business on this planet is experiential, and to go and be creative, and to manifest experiences you want to carry with you. And the group of the Synergy Foundation, you people all here, are creating experiences in this world, and you're at a level of your experiential creations are capable of influencing a large number of other people, because that's how it's going to spread. As people let go of the programming and move into personal creativity, we all create heaven on earth when we're in love. If we got rid of the program, by then definition, everyone would be manifesting their version of heaven on earth. And I think this is the destination that we're moving into, but the old structure is in a state of collapse with new thinking. And this is what Greg and I emphasize about the new science, the new thinking that shapes the way we live. So we are definitely on the verge of the greatest possible step of human evolution ever, the coming together of a unity called humanity. And the synergy of 7 billion people coming together in the world of science leads to something called emergence. And emergence is things we couldn't even imagine right at this minute. When that many people come together, will pop out of our world. So there's a world that's so far beyond even our imagination at this moment, just looming on the horizon. And as Greg said, all the answers that we need are here, and when this comes together, it will completely turn this planet into heaven on earth, which it rightfully is. Thank you for your attention.
Hey guys, under Hodge, 7 of Truth or Infinite Potential Healing here once more. Thank you for finding me. Hope you've gained something from all my previous raw recordings like this, where I'm offering you the opportunity to see me and tune into me and whatever you need to do for your discernment. It's been an interesting ride. I feel like I've got a lot to share. I've got a lot of gaps that I haven't seen offered anywhere else, that from my intent is to accelerate your development as quick as you can to get up to speed and maybe be doing whatever you need in your local reality, your region or your journey. A lot of us feel like we're probably isolated, alone, there's no one we can deal with and stuff like that. So it's a pretty common theme for you if you're into my sort of stuff. It's been a part of my journey and all that sort of thing, but I think when you really get awareness and you understand what's going on and stuff, you never go back to unawareness. And the hope is to help others get there, but honestly, I think it's time to be really spiritually selfish and focus purely on yourself and getting yourself as far as you can. A bit like the metaphor of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where a lot of people were given the download from the ETs to go on the mission, be in a location, but a lot of them freaked out right at the end and stuff. And for me, it was a powerful metaphor of just that pursuit of commitment and trust and all that sort of stuff. So whatever it is, if you get something from me, awesome. If I've helped you in any way, thank you, because I know on the karmic credit side of things, we do get recognition for that, even though in the 3D it may not feel like it. To me, I basically set my intent for the ancient ancestors that have high perception and can tune in and read us and sense everything and what was going on and what we've been through. So plus my end of life review where I can tune in and discern myself and stuff. So I sort of hold that as my bar of my effort. And yeah, I appreciate, like I said in the last video, thank you, the unawareness realm that we're in, and how my attitude is, it's not the norm in the universe. The norm is awareness, and we're multidimensional souls, and we're vaster. We're only shards of us, of who we are here and stuff. And yeah, it's just exploring awareness in the unawareness realm is, like, to me, a huge achievement on the soul level. So find encouragement for your courage to do that when awareness and falsehood are the norm in the reality. My favorite quote is a quote by this guy called Thomas Cooper, and I haven't really done the research on him, but it was fraud and falsehood, dread, investigation, truth invites it. So I'm inviting you to explore me further by putting my face out there and all that sort of stuff. And if you get something, awesome, right? If you don't, so be it. When I was making the Conscious Explorer videos, and this is a cool attitude to hold in everything you do, is I was never focused on the outcome. I never put energy in the outcome. I put the full energy in the creation of everything I did in the moment, and I let whatever outcome be the outcome. And I learnt that back in my DJing days. In the 90s, I was so self-conscious about being judged and stuff like that. I never really let it rip, and I always held back because it felt so core to my heart and my core, the commitment I had and how important DJing was to me, that I never really showed my talents, and I held myself back. And I realized, because I was scared of getting negative feedback or saying I wasn't good enough and all that sort of stuff, so I didn't try. And I learned, you've got to make the most of the opportunities. And the other thing about not being driven by the outcome, okay, is that you might have a perception of what the outcome is, right? And it might be really good, but you only have it to the level of you can comprehend. And what tends to happen is, what people get is so amazing, it's beyond what you can comprehend and what you can envisage and what you think you're worthy of for. So I encourage you, if you create stuff, invest everything in the moment. Don't have a hook of the potential of the outcome and stuff. And humanity and spirit and great mystery probably have a massive surprise for you and stuff. So that's always been my attitude. Because I felt like the energy invested in the outcome was a waste. It wasn't something I could control. I can control my attitude in the creation and holding the energy and the clearance and all that sort of stuff. So master yourself, let whatever take care of itself, and be open to surprising and amazing things, all right? So this release, I'm going to try and get into something that's really, really important and really big for me, and it was a very vital component to put together and all that sort of stuff with me. And it goes through a bit of a long journey, and I'm going to try and get it all out in one hit. I may need to do updates for this and stuff like that, but it's related to cellular memory engagement, okay? So this is another next offering in my Multidimensional Method to the 3D Madness series. And this one I have been brewing for a while, and it took me a while to really get into the mode and stuff. And by offering all the previous releases and stuff, I'm hoping to create a web of dot to dots for your engagement of your technology. If I show you the an image I offered last time, so I shared this, and basically pattern recognition and engagement of technology and stuff like that. You can see I've just drawn a dot to dot, alright? And at the top there's like a question mark and an infinity symbol, and to me that's putting all the pieces together to form a pattern, a perception, or engaging technology and all that sort of stuff, right? And by what I mean technology, I'm saying the attributes of your body, okay? Andrew says that our DNA, our skin suit, is the greatest technology in the universe, and I hold that attitude. Many of the things he's offered over the years, I use as foundational components to fire everything I've said and everything I've offered, alright? So I'm not a spiritual plagiarist. I'm not trying to claim I know what I know when I don't. But I employ what I've learned and add it to the equation of who I am to do this, okay? So what I'm trying to do is offer you the leads to find the components to actually explore and stuff, okay? So that's the whole reason why I did the Conscious Explorer documentary series, which is 22 episodes, and I'm claiming it was tens of thousands of hours of research to find all those teachers and all those lectures and all those components. And when you do a vast amount of information like that, you start seeing patterns. And what I felt was, even though all the teachers were using their unique linguistics, and they never, before the internet and stuff, most people rarely interacted, and it was very individual in the journey of a lot of teachers and stuff. And what I found is that though that was the geographic limit at the time, which I've talked about the incarnation grid being a when I'll talk about the incarnation war sort of thing, the geographical displacement of people from soul family and stuff is a great asset of the system to prevent our growth and stuff like that. But we've sort of had this internet sort of technology come up in the last couple of decades that sort of circumvented the geographical limitations of stuff, so we're able to connect and stuff. And that's why it can be interesting if you're highly sensitive like me. I basically tune into people not wanting to, but there's a lot loaded in people's messages and conversations and stuff, and I can scan the body and all that sort of stuff. So that's where I've sort of really I've tried to wear myself out to suppress my talents, and then I get all my energy back, and then it's amped up and isolated. So I've committed to that now, and that's where I'll talk about infinite potential healing and what I do in another video. I think it will help. My writing and stuff like that is a bit hard for people to tune into because they're obviously sensing it in their own respect. So I'll do a video of that soon, but yeah, see this dot to dot sort of thing is also attributes you need to develop and understand to engage with technology. So what I'm going to do here is talk about cellular memory engagement. Okay, so I mentioned my Conscious Explorer documentary series. One of the reasons I created that was what I realized in the awakening of a lot of people is there's what I called the download phase of the initial awakening, and I went through it. Okay, I've been offering all my path and stuff for you to discern and get a coordinates of me and my development, because it took me 10 years to work all this out, and I'm like, when I used to DJ, it took me 9 months to learn how to DJ from nothing, but it would take me an hour to teach people because I learned the hard way. The whole purpose of me doing everything I'm doing is to accelerate whoever finds me, all right, ASAP, to get the basics under control, to potentially be whoever they're meant to be, whoever you're meant to be, or do whatever you're meant to do. And there's no instruction book for all this stuff, and I had to reverse engineer, and I found all these teachers and such as Andrew and all that introduced the cellular memory concept to me, and it was like, yeah, wow, because I'll get further into what I understand about that, and yeah, things in society that are off that are obvious when you get that concept. So what is cellular memory? Basically, from Andrew's point of view, cellular memory is the skeletal system, all right? I come from an IT engineering background, okay? And so the platters, like hard disks are changing now in the technology, but they're being spin platters with basically crystals on them, and the information components are basically a charged little crystal that is charged on or off. So it's a 1 or a 0. It's binary code. It's like binary sort of system, 1s or 0s, and 8 1s or 0s together is a byte sort of thing, and that can have 255 characters sort of thing. So, but what I'm getting to is the platters were crystal, all right, little layers of crystals and stuff like that. So when you think about the skeletal system, which is calcium, essentially a calcium crystal, all right, lattice of, I don't know the terminology off the top of my head, but just see, instead of seeing the bones as like a structure, like stone, which you can put it that way, see it as crystal. It's crystalline. So imagine there's sort of articles and stuff coming out about new future technology of crystal and the volume of data it can hold compared to what we know now, and it's fast. It's like, whole data centers, whole, internets in, crystal and stuff like that. So the volume of data that your crystal your skeleton can hold is immense, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm doing the recording of this, but what I might do is share a Bruce Lipton clip where he talks about the first 7 years of waking up, which he sort of describes the first 7 years as a child on earth is our download phase. It gets the instruction code to operate in the reality. We become blank slate, we've got to learn and stuff, and that's where all the structures of education and all the frequencies and all that sort of stuff go to create us how we're created in the reality to be a part of it. This download phase I'm sort of saying is what happened to me when I went through this situation with my ex. It turned me on. I was in a dormant state, in like a afraid sort of attributes like empathy and all that were there but not focused, and when that trauma happened and I had to choose love over money, that was my rite of passage to get who I was. And then I was on the radar, and so I could make sort of the control room shows and targeted individuals and all that sort of stuff. There's a lady by the name of Dawn Mazer that I found in a forum that I helped out, that the targeted individual show that Andrew did in 2015 was about her, because I'd been through it. But it's like Earth is Earth, all right? It's not beer and Skittles, all right? It's toughest gig in the universe, and it's sink or swim, and we've been through thousands of lives of hardship. Imagine we've all been burned at the stake, you know, thousands of times, sort of thing. So this is what we've come through to get to now, and we're all soul fatigued, all right? From basically edge of tomorrow existence on Earth, okay? We've been smashed, killed, reset, come back, over and over again, all right? So, yeah, Bruce Lipton, if I've shown that clip, if I found the clip, I know where it is, so I will include it so you can actually get a thing. But this download phase is getting the relative to awakening is going from what we've been brought up in to on a program subconscious higher self sort of level of going and getting the foundational data into our cellular memory to have perception in the reality. That's my attitude. I don't think everyone does it. I think there's a specific sort of type of soul incarnation being or whatever you're here to do that might go through that. Some people don't have the ability to consume data, like just devour it and stuff like that. A lot of the people that are similar to me though are that way, and I honestly think it should be a requirement of the awakening to go through and be very, very expansive in your exploration. And then what happens after a while, it's like a gas tank or a petrol tank. You get to a limit and your tank is full of awareness and knowledge. Once you get to that certain level of data, I'll show you that other image again. It might be this block here that you needed to do, and all these other steps are all the instinctive, empathy, compassion, do no harm sort of thing. It's a launching pad to another level of awareness. It's a component in your skill set triggering, okay? I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that, and a lot of people I've met, and I've had the privilege of interacting with, that have instinctively had a lot of talents innately in them, and they've been very aware, more aware than me. I'm not the be-all end-all. I'm just able to push through and work out the mechanics of certain things and pass it on like this. All right. So yeah, there's initial awakening, and mine came from also losing money. All right. I remember it because back in 2008 there's a financial collapse going on, and my attitude was the rest of the world is going to decouple from the US, because they're not, the rest of the world is not naive enough to bring themselves down being hooked into America. It would quarantine it and everyone would be okay, but I got the strategy totally wrong. Lost quite a bit of money and stuff, and the stocks dipped and all that sort of stuff because everyone was interrelated. It's like the money system is designed to be hooked into everyone, right? And it brought everyone down, and I lost money. I was like shit, made a massive mistake. It's like, how can I not make this mistake again? All right, like I said in previous release, making mistakes isn't, a bad thing as long as you realized your perceptions were off and you just recalibrate it. All right, so what this did, it triggered me to want to know more. Plus my ex was suicidal, and I would go to the sections in Border with stocks and Warren Buffett and all these sort of people that had success in currency, in trading and that, and I wanted to learn what they know. And you listen to the masters, right? And that's when I found the Danny and Brinkley book, and I also went through that experience of empathically tuning into his past life review, or out of body experience with life review, and his courage to change, and being in hospices with war veterans on their own and helping them cross over, like 10,000 people. Being in people around death is a very courageous thing. It's also a beautiful thing, right? Because all the bullshit's gone, it's all pure, you know? And what I found is also with that, it's like, just drop the bullshit a lot and be like that all the time. Why do you have to have all these layers and stuff and complexity? It can be really simple if you live life like it's your last day every day. So yeah, I went through that and I realized, fuck, there's so much shit I just don't know. And my background was IT. I would read these thick Microsoft manuals, 800, 900 pages, and not memorize them, but I would obviously be using my cellular memory, which I didn't realize, and just absorb what was in them to do exams and stuff like that. Now the thing with my IT engineering days, where I worked, you know, crazy hours, and it was 24/7 sometimes, and wasn't always called out, but you had to be ready. And that was after I was very good with Windows, Microsoft, because it was visual, like images. I wasn't that great with command line stuff like Cisco and all that, because what I realized is what I can do is I've got sort of a photographic memory where I can remember streets, what they look like, but I don't remember names. And I could remember, like, there might be 700 different options to fix a computer and certain things, and there was a mythology to it, and you do it enough and it becomes automatic, where you know where to go and stuff, and it has a feel about it, the issues. And I realized, you know, I was using talents that I didn't know I had. I just thought everyone was like it. But yeah, so I was very visual, sort of photographic memory and all that sort of stuff. Though it's not like everything, I had to have a relationship to access that information, alright? So it might be error and issues and problems, or it might be I need to go to a place and I don't actually remember the street, but I remember how it felt when I looked, and it was like an overlay of a stencil sort of thing, and I could just see it. Right? So yeah, I went through this download phase, and I realized I didn't know, there was so much I didn't know. So it was on like Donkey Kong for me. And I remember I was like very fortunate in Sydney. There were 4 Borders bookstores and stuff like that, and yeah, I was just hungry for knowing, and I spent many years in that phase. I remember I was having issues with my ex, and I came back to Adelaide for a couple of months, and that's late 2009. That's where I discovered iodine, because I was drinking so much coffee from this particular local sort of franchise, and they used this soy milk called Bonsai, and it was ironic because I was drinking so much coffee. I was basically reading a book a day, and having three of these coffees, I would have the 50 milligrams of iodine over the few months, and I felt amazing. Then I went back to Sydney and I felt shit after a few months, right? So yeah, all these synchronicities and teachers and all that, and that era, the YouTube was really fantastic, and so it was really cool era for me, very powerful on my own. Didn't know if I had no reference to what I was going through. It's just I was trying to navigate life and not make failures and mistakes in it going forward, and had no reference for the craziness I was involved with and the narcissistic greed sort of behavior that I experienced. It's like, I'm going to talk about crises, but I was entangled in her crisis, and then when it was over, it was like cast aside like a prostitute, you know. sucked dry of all my life and like a vampire, and then I had to put myself together. And it's interesting how there can be so much care and gratitude, and then once you're used up, the callousness towards you, and that was really hard. And yeah, it was shattering in many respects, and some of the stuff she did was just really, really out there, crazy, and it was all designed to, not by design, but it's the outcome to me was shattering, and that got me into healing and stuff like that. But so and then when I learnt about Danny and Brinkley and not returning all the bullshit and stuff and being better and moving on and stuff like that. I learned to not be hooked into, say, the money and stuff, and there's something better potentially on the other side, which is the unknown, and working with it. So eventually I had two lists, alright? I had teachers I didn't know and concepts I didn't know. And so, getting long story short, I was doing my currency trading, which was 20 to 40 hours I'd stay up. I worked out I could change the 7-day week into a 5-day week. And yeah, I forget how many hours, but if you divide 168 by 5, or yeah, I'd have that many days for many years, and it sort of disconnected me from time as well, and the cycles and that, and got into my cycles of my body, and I would work until I could not, and I'd go and crash, and then I'd get up, I'd keep working, right? And in part of that work, in between trades, I would do the research, and that's where I devoured thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of everyone. People like all those people in the Conscious Explorer documentary series, I went and found and exhausted and watched them over and over again, and it's not just once, it's over and over to get it, right? Because I call it consciousness Tetris. That's a concept I sort of introduced with Andrew. It's like you get a layer and a brick and you get to the next layer. So a lot of the teachings are layered, so you won't hear it on the first run. You have to get a foundational concept to get the teachings at the high level. So a lot of people will watch things once, or most people, if you have a YouTube channel, the average is about 14 minutes. Okay, so people shut down because they just don't have the energy in their body to absorb, or they're not clear enough to have the space in their cellular memory, or it conflicts with other beliefs and all that sort of stuff, which are all things you have to learn to navigate and disarm and stuff. And so just from the pure information perspective and that, and other teachings as well, along my journeys I found two people. One was Douglas Dietrich and the other was Richard Alan Miller. Douglas Dietrich worked in the Presidio with, I won't get into it because I think the algorithms pick up what you say and then they limit you, right? You can go find out where he's been involved in, and Richard Alan Miller. But what I got from them, okay, is the vastness of what they could pull into any conversation. Douglas Dietrich had this way of just like remembering everything and all the details about all the documents that he was burning, of like the military sort of there, and so he could pull up his perception of what he read in any moment on any topic, and done thousands and thousands of hours of interviews and his own radio show where he just talk about stuff and never stop. Like, it's like he never had a breath. Richard Alan Miller was this genius that was like the head physicist for the Pentagon until in the 70s. He worked out how to create basically the Navy SEALs and stuff. He set it up, and Navy SEALs were identifying psychic warriors. Basically, I don't believe what we see in the narrative is what the true Navy SEALs are, okay? And there's a lot in the intuitive sort of talents that it's fascinating how you watch movies and stuff, it's really rarely covered. Like even in the movie Limitless, where it was like expanding, and Lucy and stuff, psychic abilities are seldom really really explored. It's more like you've got the ability to work in a barrier in the 3D narrative sort of thing, okay, rather than something out there. So, like, you can calculate maths really quick, or you can work out problems and all that, but you can't just tune into the end and the answer and all that sort of stuff, right? So those were two teachers that popped up, and I was like it took me a lot to really, I was here and I couldn't handle their information, so I had to listen and over and just try and get the knowledge, acceptance, skills and talents to be able to work in higher level, right? To work at their level and take on what they're saying, because their linguistics. Michael Desarian as well, sorry, he was a huge influence, and just the fact that he read so many books and he would come up with these quotes, probably very obscure quotes, and an amazing philosopher that went through all this bad shit to give us this amazing truth. And yeah, it was just, his thoroughness was exceptional, and they were like, these three were like bars to me. It was like, wow, it's not a judgment or a measure, but I like finding the best of the best and using them as a reference of seeing what my potential is, you know, like it's a motivation to accelerate my development. I was very lucky to work with some extremely talented IT engineers and as well, and like back in my DJing days, I'd find the best DJ and I'd like Tiesto. There's this other guy in the 90s called Slipmatt, and I would, wow, like they're the measure. I want to be like that. And it's interesting, if you watch the Michael Jordan The Last Dance series that I recommend, he would find the talent and go after him, and like very in a very dominant way, he would dominate the court like it's his territory and stuff. And I appreciate that. That's never been my thing, but I can appreciate it more now because it's all about self-mastery, right? And that's very Taoism. I remember reading about Taoism and stuff, where Taoism isn't about competition. It would be like archery and being able to hit the target, like mastering your skill. So like in basketball, it's like free throw, seeing how many free throws or 3-pointers you can get and mastering that, the shot sort of thing. So you have to be sort of committed and energized by your self-improvement with all this stuff. That's what I'm sort of dropping here. So these guys were like the measure, and I was like, wow, I've got more to do. And I was very humble always, and obviously I've had my talents and stuff like that, but I'd never really been one to sort of promote them or whatever. I'm me, you can get whatever you want, and I'm focused on the outcome, right? Like Galactic Special Forces and stuff like that. It's not anything to brag about. It's like tough. And the outcome is whatever is to happen on Earth. We've made it through the Incarnation War and to get here and stuff. And my attitude, I've got one foot in that, holding it for whatever I've got to do. And Earth delegates whatever she delegates. I'll talk about my healing experiences at some point. I want to do that because it's like whenever you got soul contracts, and it doesn't matter where your development is, these responsibilities will be delegated to you, and you've just got to do whatever you do. And it's like, I'll just be good. Work hard so I'm ready for whatever. That's the way I've always been, because I'm humble to what I don't know, and I've been smashed so many times, right? So it's not like bragging or anything like that. It's just I get what I get, and I'm sharing it in this way now, because if I don't say what I say, I don't think you'll get the mechanics. I have to sort of educate on that level. So this is about cellular memory engagement, right? So these teachers were talking so much stuff. So not only is their level of operation, like linguistics and all that, so good, the volume and the amount was massive. And like Michael Desarian would do the 11-hour Age of Manipulation lecture series, which is I watched over and over in one hit between trades, and it was just phenomenal. So I like to measure about them. So the other thing, going back in time, back in the 80s and 90s, there'd be like these mystery shows and like detective shows or whatever, but there'd be these instances where they'd pull in sort of psychics and all that, but then there'd also be these other ones, and I don't have any reference for it. I remember it clearly, is that, say in a crime, okay, some things that they would do at times would bring in, like for witnesses, like you see a crime and stuff like that, you might have information and that, but in the excitement and adrenaline fueled fear and uncertainty of all that event, a lot of people can't really handle it, and I'm not saying I can and stuff, but what the teaching of that showed is that in some instances they would use hypnosis to help witnesses remember stuff like number plates and that. I found that fascinating, okay? So I'll just use that. They use a altered state technique to access information, okay? So just imagine, like I say, the cellular memory in your skeleton is incredibly vast, alright? So on some subconscious level, everything you ever look at, everything you ever see, everything you ever witness, hear and experience is there in you somehow, alright? So it's not a matter of is it there or whatever, or do I have it, or I just, well, what a lot of people do is like they have lack and it's like, I can't do that, I don't have that, all that, like you self-impose your limits sort of thing. Programs of self-defeat, okay, is there seemed to be some consistent way of accessing it, okay? And the technology used, or the method, was an altered state, hypnosis, getting people out of their way to access it on a subconscious level, okay? So with all this sort of stuff going on in my life and that, so that's a variable that's like interesting. It's just out there, you know, like this, all right? It's an interesting variable to contemplate, you know, that it can be done. Why can't I do it, all right? So, and I've shared my journey and I'm trying to give you a timeline and stuff. 2011, I had 3 people in 2 days tell me about this lady called Rose Penn. She was 99 at the time, meditation leader, and then I went to the group. The very next chance, she would do it on Mondays and Thursdays, and I went to her class, and it was like I was a mid-30s-year-old rookie punk that was in very expansive mode, and walking into a circle with 70, 80 and 90-year-olds, and she's 99, and they've all been doing meditation for 30, 20 decades, you know, long time, since the 60s and 70s. So me as a raw component coming into that circle with these masters that have lived it, it was a very accelerated space to tune into and engage and stuff. So meditation has been a very, very important component of mine, and I was going through the financial hardships as well. So I learnt to budget my emotions as well, because it was so hard, like living on $10 a day. I lived on 1.5 meals a day. I had to walk 10 to 15 kilometers a day, which is about 10 miles, right? 10 to 12 miles. And that's where I learnt walkabout and walking the grid and stuff like that. But you can get to a state where there's no cost energetically walking. It's like a really, really, like the infinity. It's like you're in the, like the crossing over the infinity where you're balancing everything and stuff. So I was doing all that. And so what meditation is about is learning to master your brainwaves and things like that. And one of the things Richard Alan Miller talked about was brainwave tools and stuff. He was encouraging hemisync, or there's holosync as well, and they're like the alpha, beta, delta and theta states and stuff, and you training yourself to master them, and basically the relationship to them, and I'm not going to get into the specific one, it could be theta, I'm just doing this quick and off the top of my head, is that when you can engage those states, in the relation to hypnosis and stuff. And if you've got the components of the data to access and stuff, then then stuff bubbles up and knowingness kicks in. Okay. So what I may do is, it's getting quite long. I might break this up into a couple of parts, but if I do, yeah, that's the first big component. Just see what I'm saying. The way I'm sort of speaking is to offer many components about me and my mechanics, right? And this is, imagine this is knowingness, the awareness and stuff, right? Sure, there's a lot of stuff you don't know and experience, and that's another variable, the aware of the knowingness. But imagine a lot of the things I'm talking about, the components that get to that infinite potential sort of state of existence, all right, where all the technology is engaged, okay? So if you listen, if you're getting something from this, awesome. And I hope you continue and watch the second part when I release it, alright? So if I do break this up, and it's because it has been quite long, thank you for watching. Thank you for your interest in me and finding me. I'm not that easy to find, and I think there's been a lot of interesting things that have happened the last couple of months with me and stuff, and if you're able to endure and take on board what I say and it helps you and accelerate, thank you. I'm grateful. And yeah, keep searching, guys. Thanks.